March 14th. I had a terrible emotional crisis. Past trauma, melancholy, and anger boiled inside of me. March 16th. I was recovering from the previous crisis when I got another one. The previous one was bad and this one was proven to be just as bad if not worse. Once again, brooding from past trauma, struggling with the feeling that it's so difficult to start anything that I may go my entire life not doing the things I wanna do. Feeling down would be an euphemism. I was broken. Then I sat on my bed, focusing only on my breathing and gently pushing away any other thoughts. I meditate like this every day after waking up, so I use this, for a lack of a bad word, turn myself off and on again. It was mainly to motivate myself to get up and fill my water bottle, but as I walked to the kitchen and daze and started filling the bottle, the mechanical actions of that routine allowed me to start thinking, and I concluded that fuck procrastination, fuck this fucking cycle of continuous failure to do what I want to do. I'm not broken. I refuse. It's not defeat until I stop, and I won't stop. And that's how I went insane and decided to make a visual novel in 30 days. So, to give you some more context, I had previously watched Baron's video on how to make a visual novel in 30 days, and that brought about an idea that I had ever since I played Adastra last year, the end of last year, and it was a story about how there's no such a thing as a good king, and instead of trying to institute the good king, empires should be brought down and stuff like that. And that's a very common trope we see in fantasy typically, so I wanted to explore that a little bit. That idea came back to my head in the 16th of March, after that moment of epiphany through crisis. Naturally, the visual novel I decided to make in the 30 days is not that one. It's a different story that I had in mind. So this is the story of how I made a visual novel in 30 days and how I learned to work on a project for 30 days, not in 30 days. Also, this is the first time I'm doing something like this, so excuse me, the not very professional me reading from my phone. Technically it's the second time I'm doing reading from script like this, but anyway. After the night in the 16th, I started working on stuff on the 17th of March. I started making a journal, actually, that you can read in the description below, along with technically the script of this video, even though I'm not following strictly, but here you can read down below. And also the games I document for the visual novel that I made. It's not the one about Good King, it's about a psych awakening his powers and going insane. I'll get there. So after that episode, I guess, I decided to make a visual novel, regardless of how I felt in the moment. And actually, the next day, in the 18th of March, I started actually working on the visual novel. And of course, I wasn't feeling like working on anything at all. But I'm used to this kind of stuff, like hyping myself to make a project, and then the next day or week or two at most, I'm like nothing like doing it at all. The hype dies down and then I'm left with the reality that I have to work. But again, regardless of how I felt, I start work on it. And the idea of this challenge of making something in a month was not to prove myself that I can do it, but to teach myself how I can do it. Well, I finished in a month and it's like the end of May, so you can guess that I got mixed results. So, following the idea that Keith gave in his video to work on a visual novel for 30 days, I actually worked for 30 days for a reason that I don't remember, and watching a YouTube video, it's so hard. Oh wow, it would be so difficult to get this information. But the point is, I started 3 days before actually working on the challenge to really organize what I was going to do, and I actually created 2 of the games I document, one for the visual novel called Good King actually, and the other one for the visual novel I actually did in this 30 days, which we'll get through. So the first 3 days, technically before the 30-day challenge, I started planning exactly what I was going to do and how. So my original idea was to make first a proof of concept first and then make the challenge. The proof of concept end up being the thing that I actually use in the challenge. And also it's good to note that I never made a visual novel before, and even open up Rampai before. So that was a little journey, a fun journey actually. The proof of concept was a short story I was already writing about. First was called Reality Warper because the idea was this psychic awakening powers of bending reality itself and torturing people he thought was fuck with him in his life, but actually he was delusional and stuff. But Reality Warper is a bad name for a visual novel, so I decided to rename it to Warp Reality, but still didn't feel quite right, a bit too long. It had the idea of like the literal reality being warped and also the warp reality that the psychic had, but still wasn't. But then a few days in, I had the idea of just calling warped. Short, it still has the double meaning, so I think it's a good idea if I do say so myself. And the idea was, after making this proof of concept, I make the No Good King in 30 days, which is not what happened, because as soon as I started making the actual documentation and the more I thought about the No Good King story, the more I would notice that the story needed room to breathe and the characters needed time to develop their relationship in order for the story to work the way I wanted it to. So I decided to leave No Good King for another time and focus on Warp, and made that in 30 days, or made most of it. Oh good, I explained things out of order. For the documentation of the games, I use a model based on Level Up by Rob Dial. I have actually the book. I actually have the book here. I never finished reading as many books, but I have it actually physically. I also have a PDF. And yes, the book is a little bit beaten. Some of my books happen to suffer a little bit for some reason. So on the very first day of the challenge, I woke up filled with rage. But like I said, I work on it regardless, and I began writing the story, which took me a while. On that day, I also decided to stream part of my process, which you can watch right now on playlist, which is also in the description below. Am I streaming? Am I on? Does anybody hear me? I won't go super detailed day by day, so here's a summary. And you can read the journal and watch the streams to see more detail if you want. On the second day, I had reminded myself to stop thinking what I'm doing as content. There's a video that Patrick H. Willems made about it. Yes, it is the plot hole guy, but his videos are more than just that one thing. It's the only video of him which I think is actually not good. All of them are literally about cinema, but are also absolute cinema. They're very good. You should watch it. But in essence, it's to stop focusing what I'm doing as something to fill a platform. Also to stop myself from daydreaming about reaching fortune and fame, stuff like that, because that kind of thing doesn't help at all. It actually just creates anxiety and takes away your energy, your time, and space on your mind that you should be using to creating what you want to make, doing stuff you want to make in life. Not that you can't dream, but you know, everything needs a balance in life. On the third day, I was reminded that sleep is extremely important. Even a quick nap helped me a lot to actually do some work in that day, instead of just sitting down and watching a billion videos on YouTube again for the millionth time. In the fourth day, I felt for the first time since all of this started the frustration of repeating patterns. Usually my drive, my hype dies in like 1 or 2 weeks, like I said, and has been more or less a week since the episode, so all the feelings were waning away at this time. And this time was particularly bad because at the beginning of the day I thought it was already this thing of waking up and working on the visual novel was already become a habit, but clearly that wasn't happening yet, if at all. But despite that, I continue working on the project. On the fifth day, the feeling of not wanting to continue becomes stronger yet, and days like that are what makes me glad that I built the actual system for myself, so I don't depend on just motivation and willpower and discipline to actually do anything. One of the things that I learned when I was working through sales, which I tried to make through the phone, which was a work that didn't pan out and suck ass. Basically, I have a separate browser for work, separate from all the things I usually have. This specific browser is logged on other accounts that are not logged in my main browser. Any shortcuts and bookmarks are specifically for stuff for work, so like sites that I use for stock images and videos, for instance, Pixabay, Unsplash, Pexels, other sites that I found that you can actually find them on the credits for the game. If you go to the about section of the game, you'll find credits for all the stuff that I use. Also, the first thing I do when I turn on the PC is to open this browser when I want to work that day, so I don't get caught in the trap of algorithms of social media and stuff. In also a bit more recent development, every time I need to work, I make a clock for 3 minutes, so I do that thing for 3 minutes, and after those 3 minutes, if I don't want to work on that anymore, I go do something else. If I want to continue, I just continue. So it's kind of sort of a Pomodoro of sorts, but so to take out the pressure that, oh, I have to rewrite this entire fucking section that has 20 paragraphs of text. I'm like, no, I'm gonna rewrite for 3 minutes, and if I don't want to do it anymore, I will just go do something else, either for 3 minutes or just do something else, whatever. And it works surprisingly well for some reason. And also I switch between tasks sometimes. If I'm working on a drawing, I go for work from another drawing. The more recent work stream, I actually show this unintentionally. I can go from writing to drawing to writing and editing video if I had videos to edit, which I now will have, but you know, switching between tasks help. And actually all those things together gives mixed results. Even all together, they don't work 100% of the time. And sometimes I can work without any of them or just using them a little bit. I have them if I need to, and hopefully the version of myself today doesn't need them. But if the version of myself needs them, I can use those. I also have started journaling since the ending of last year, and it actually helps to put thoughts together. It was even before this challenge, but this also helps a little bit. Every day is like trying to adapt what's happening fucking day. A little bit tiring sometimes, but sometimes it just is. Despite all of that, on the 5th day I managed to finish writing a scene, which was nice, and I just call it the day then, because at that day I wasn't really being that, I don't want to say productive, though technically yes, but I wasn't progressing anyway. On the 6th day I wrote in my journal that I wasn't feeling philosophical that day, and then I immediately became philosophical. My least philosophical moment. On the 7th day I finished the other scene I wanted to finish, and made me happy and angry, and also felt like crying all at the same time. I felt happy because I finished it. I felt angry because I should have known how to do these things at least a decade ago, and I feel a little bit of spite towards randos on the internet trying to diminish the point of a video that basically says don't wait to do the things you wanna do just because the person had help on their project, not throwing shades, just entire clips. And I felt like crying of relief because after all that struggle, I finally got it done. After the first week, things got easier-ish. Not just because the first week of anything is harder for me, but also because I spend a lot of energy doing TTRPG stuff, like helping my friends make character sheets and preparing campaigns and stuff like that. And weirdly enough, spending energy on that actually refreshed my head. And yeah, it's already the start of the 2nd week and I'm still writing the story. If I would redo this challenge, I would instead write the entire story and then make everything else. I would like write just the outline, and then I'll go writing scene by scene, like the first scene, and then I work on that scene, making the visuals and the sound effects, and then I move to the next scene, write the next scene, and so on, instead of writing everything out at once. I think it would help improve the workflow, but that's not what I did, so yeah. By the end of the 10th day, I finished writing the story, not without struggle, but I did anyway. You see, a lot of times in my life it feels like I have to, in order to do anything or most things, it feels like I have to break a brick wall with my bare hands. It reminds me a little bit of that episode of Doctor Who, the new Who, Heaven Sent, that the Doctor spent 4.5 billion years breaking through a Asbantian wall in order to get out. There are days that feels like that to do anything. I have to break a diamond wall or chip away Diamond Mountain just to get through the other side to do one thing, and then I do that thing and I go try to do other thing, and it's the same process all over again. And sometimes it feels like there's nothing really stopping me. It's just there's no wall, there's no mountain. I just go and do it. The inconsistency that's really bothers me, because like there are days that I can just do it. There are days like I have to mine with my bare hands out of solid stone just to do one simple task. So finishing the story was basically a cycle between procrastinating, punching the metaphorical wall, procrastinating, punching the metaphorical wall, over and over again. Now, I know a lot of people have advice in this moment, and I'm asking you to hold it because two main reasons. One, I already did everything that's possible to do under the procrastination niche. Everything everyone has ever said to that you do to do stuff, I already did it. Already done it. I already experimented with it, and a lot of it either doesn't work for me, like planning the schedule for the day hour by hour, that doesn't work for me, and the other half is pseudoscientific garbage like dopamine detox. Look it up, it's not a thing. And reason number two, most of the advice is generic and too broad to really apply to any particular individual. You either adapt it to you, and sometimes that means you change it so much it barely is the same advice anymore, or sometimes works but not consistently, which happens with me a lot. That's because each of us is a very different person, very different individual, and we all have unique traits, unique particularities. We have particularities and unique traits about us, and so a lot of this broad advice helps guiding you, but it's not a solution on itself. And the secret third reason, you shouldn't really be caring about being productive anyway. At least not in this, I have to produce as much as possible, as efficiently as possible. That isn't sustainable or healthy in the long way, and it's not a humane way of thinking and acting at all. It's not a humane mindset, it's a corporate mindset. It's basically made for creating a worker that works more and complains less to the corporation. It's not made for you or me or anyone, it's made for profit. The thing is, that doesn't mean that all of productivity it's people propagating propaganda or a corporation conspiring for workers to work more and stuff like that, although some of it is. I'll get more to it later actually. Even the things that I explain here are particular to me, of course. You can test them if you want, but be aware you're probably gonna have to adapt it, of course, to yourself and your situation, because I don't know what your situation is. You know better than me, so it can also help having a professional to guide you as well. But Zelf, everyone knows that kind of stuff. It's obvious. Not necessarily. Something obvious, it's not universal, it's contextual. For instance, a physicist has certain things they find obvious. Things they find obvious are going to be different than what an electrician finds obvious. They have different fields of knowledge and experiences, therefore they have different things they find to be obvious. Anyways, making stuffing on Rampy, it's really easy actually. You can just look at the documentation, which appears to be daunting at first, but it's actually very handy. You can also just look for tutorials and forum posts. With just that, you can actually already start making a project on Rampy. The program is made to be as easy to work with as possible and really shows. I have written here a little bit how to make a character and stuff like that to show that's easy, and I have some computer background, can call it that. I did computer science in college before I dropped out. Technically I did computer science college for like 4 years, and then I changed to development analysis of system analysis development, whatever it's called, for a year, and then I dropped out. So that actually gave me some background to programming. Sure, But programming is not really that hard, actually. Especially in Python is one of the easiest things you can program in. If you follow the tutorials and understand what is being shown and why things are being used, it's really simple actually. Don't be daunted by the fact that it requires programming. Programming is really easy to get into. It's really the object orientation stuff thing is, and more abstract algorithms that are like really daunting. The basics of programming is really easy and it's literally just logic, and really simple logic and math. So instead of explaining that, you can just look up a tutorial. It's really simple actually. When I say it's easy, I know there's some bias there. Oh, you make programming so you did computer science, so programming. No, programming is a little bit pushing. I haven't programmed like 2-3 years before going to RampI. And I also want to thank everyone that wrote the RampI documentation and all the forum posts and made all the tutorials. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this, so thank you. You will be the last people to be turned to furries in the apocalypse, or the first, depending on your preference, of course. So, by the 12th day, I was already feeling that even this short story was going to be a little bit too long and too daunting of a task for the 30 days. A little bit too ambitious, maybe. And on top of that, trauma struck again. Great. Yay. Same process, procrastinating, brooding, punching the metaphorical wall, actually doing the thing, procrastinating, blah 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 blah. It's a cycle that keeps happening. It is what it is. For me, it's a known dance at this point, and I came to understand that it isn't an issue I can just solve with a magical trick or with a productivity hack or something like that. It's not like that. Oh, I just need to do this thing and I will solve this. No, it's sadly not how it works. If it would be great, but it's not. So I deal with the thing as it works, as I know how it works, not how I hope it works. It's also good to remind everyone that I'm yet to seek a diagnosis for anything really. I have noticed that I suffer from certain things that appear to be other things that people talk about, but I'm not sure if I have or not something. I know I have trauma because I have what appears to be, in all shapes and forms, a trauma response to several things actually, and also seem to suffer and struggle like people with ADHD and depression and other stuff, although my depression is rage flavor. But since I ever first met a normal person, I found out that I'm weird and I'm different from normal people. And the thing is, although I'm saying a bunch of text here, the thing that matters is, regardless of official diagnosis or not, I can see people that are struggling with things that are similar to me, so I try to use their resources to see if it helps me, and a lot of time it does help me. And even though I don't have a complete diagnosis, I don't have any diagnosis yet, I can infer certain things, try them out, seeing if it works, what doesn't work. And also the fact I'm obviously not normal helps me understand that maybe I should stop trying normal people solutions, quote unquote. Atomic habit may work for some people, doesn't work for everyone, and if it doesn't work for you, it's not your fault. Another thing, meditating, it's a thing that really helps me actually. Not fault for the trap of making lists, which I love making lists, I'm great in making lists. Following lists, I'm terrible. Date number 13 was April Fool's, and I kept the tradition of doing anything because I don't have the energy nor the mental bandwidth to do anything. And I decided to start work on backgrounds because I felt more inclined to do that, and usually when I feel I'm leaning towards making something, it's better to actually do it. It's really funny that I wrote like, explain how I did the backgrounds, like, okay, then I took a picture that was a stock image and I trace over it with the vector layer on Clip Studio. I know some people are gonna immediately say, tracing is evil. I mean, no, depends how you use it actually. If you trace someone else's work, yes, it's not a good thing to do at all. But one of the images I actually took a picture and trace over it, which is what many artists do actually. And the ones I didn't take a picture was stock images, so they were made to be used, so I think that's fine. Probably. But anyway, using the vector layer on Clip Studio, I trace over the shapes and the perspective of what I wanted to do. And then I selected the layer with the one tool. I actually expanded a pixel and then blurred a pixel. And then in the lower layer, I chose a shade of gray, and I was using the fill tool, but it was weird and pixelated, so I start using the pen tool, the turnip pen, something like that. And with that, I painted inside each of the squares that I wanted with the shade that I wanted, trying to understand the lighting and the gradients and the stuff like that. Sometimes I use the gradient tool actually to make the effect, and then I use blend or blur, usually blur, to blur the lines and have everything, especially things are more in the background and obscure, to be more blurry. And sometimes use red to give like a contrast, like giving almost supernatural feeling, like the word is black and white but they're red is prominent. It's also a color there, so it calls attention when it shows. I kind of accidentally, but also kind of on purpose, use red to represent things that are and natural and supernatural and stuff like that, which worked great. And that's more or less how I did the background, essentially trying to like get the lighting, what I wanted and what shapes were important to keep in, what wasn't, and just wing it essentially. Usually I did most things in like a single layer. Some I use more than one layer, but most I use a single layer, although I wouldn't use that in the future. But anyway, and yeah, that's basically it. Was actually really fun to do because like was drawing line, adjusting the line to be like a line, was super hard. Oh, and then just painting gray or reds and seeing how it looks is kind of easy and fun actually. And honestly, it came out pretty good if I do say so myself. Oh yeah, and one thing, I'm gonna do a whole session about it, but I did all the backgrounds in full HD, so 1920 by 180, but if I were to redo it, I would do 4K resolution, because it looks very pixelated and bothers me a lot, especially the first ones that I did. So on day 14 to 16, aka halfway point, was when I found out I really like drawing backgrounds actually, which is where for artists, I see a lot of artists saying like backgrounds are a pain. I agree, the hands of characters are a pain to draw. Characters are just not great at drawing them. Typically, how I draw characters were more or less how I drew backgrounds. I took a stock picture of the pose I wanted and then like wing it, Anyway, I don't care anymore. The style of making like things black, white, and taking shades of gray and red was a bit inspired by Sin City, which I didn't read yet or watch the movie, but I saw this style and was like, this fits well with the fantasy setting about supernatural stuff hidden in plain sight. I think it's cool. And one friend of mine actually said that the pictures in the itch.io page give like a dark mood, which is exactly what I wanted, so it's perfect that I did this. Yeah, and I also learned in those days that sometimes I don't need to follow the system strictly. There are days that I can just do things, and there are days that I have to follow a more systematic way of doing things. So if I want to do anything that isn't like browsing YouTube or playing Ragnarok online, because I'm addicted to that game apparently. So on the day 17 and 18, adult life got in the way of me doing things as per usual, messing my sleep schedule, but no, I kept working on my project anyways, such as life. Also was the day that I decided to name the game Warped, which is pretty cool. The name that I chose is pretty cool, said me. So, day 19 to 22 were uneventful as the rest of the challenge. Yeah. One thing that I thought about those days was that maybe I chose the wrong time to make this project, because I was about to start 2 TTRPG games and I had other stuff that I want to make as well, and like these videos but there is no real good time to make anything. I have to make the time to make the things I wanna do, otherwise they're not ever gonna be done. So the 23rd to the 30th day of the challenge was the last week. I really wish I had like exciting resolution where I rushed to do everything I want to do, or that everything fell apart, something dramatic. Nothing eventful happened actually. I managed to succeed to make a playable build of the game, which is out right now, version 0.8, so more or less a bit over 80% the game, I guess, 85, but like anyway. But I wasn't able to finish the game in time, completed 100%. But I managed to work on something for 30 days, and it's actually playable build, even though we have some questionable placeholders. Not questionable, they're unfinished, better than use AI anyway. But in the last week of the challenge, the same old problems appeared: chronic procrastination, depression, trauma, blah blah blah, what appears to be depression anyway. I wasn't put everything the last week because I already had a playable build, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take it slow it now, and slow it was almost standing still. And I still haven't finished the game as of making, both writing the script in 21 of May and it's 30 of May, and I'm recording this and I still haven't finished the game. Oops. But when I finish the game, I'm gonna make a video about it. What's important is that the bulk of the game is done, like the entire story is written, if not every sprite is done, or every background. I mean, the backgrounds are done, but the sprites and the CGs aren't done really. The songs and sound effects are done, thankfully, thanks to amazing libraries of free sounds and music. It wasn't as good as if I had like a professional making custom sounds and music, but it's pretty good considering that it cost me like nothing. So again, in the about section of the game, there's a list of every sound that I used and music and other places you can find those sounds. And the most important takeaway is that I actually managed to work on something for 30 days, which is more than I can, like, to give some context, the last time I worked on something for technically double the amount of time was when I made a TTRPG adaptation. I took Nocturnal Dance, an early version of it, and adapted to a homemade system, which was kinda wasn't bad, but needed no playtesting. But I spent 60 days working on that and reading rules and rewriting rules and copying rules from other systems, and I work on that based on essentially obsession. I was obsessed with doing that and finish that, and then I spent 60 days writing 60,000 words. But what's important about this challenge is that I finished it not with obsession, although I wouldn't call this determination. I didn't start this feeling determined. You can read more in the journal if you want, but I felt almost manic, sick. Eventually I normalized and started feeling again like myself in a normal mood, and then I work on it normally, which is great. But I didn't start this feeling, oh wow, I'm gonna do this, because that dies down like in fucking 1 week. But it's important that I actually taught myself I can do these things, and even though it took me like 9 days to almost a week to finish the script, to start actually recording, and even write the script, it took me like a month to really finish it, mostly because of procrastination, of course, but I still managed to do it. And how do I say words? How language works? Essentially, I feel like it could be culpable, but I feel like the gap between working on a project, even if I'm procrastinating, and just procrastinating, then work on another project, that gap is like reducing bit by bit, probably, hopefully. I really hope what I wanted to accomplish with the challenge was done. I work on something for 30 days, every day, which is great. And yeah, now for things that I learned. Sleep and rest are important, because that's how your brain works. I already kind of knew that, of course, from my college days, that I slept horribly and destroyed my mental health. But when I started to sleep properly, it was like, wow, I'm a person again. I'm normal. What is this? The second thing that I learned was, even if I'm not diagnosed with anything, looking for resources from people that suffer from similar problems that I do actually helps a lot. For me, it's people that suffer from ADHD, depression, trauma, and maybe dissociation a little bit, it's kind of the reason I use a mask actually in the videos. The third thing was that life is not a marathon and it's not a race. It's neither of those things. It's the kind of both actually. You have to think on the short and the long term. For me, the short term is easier-ish, but the long term is a bit harder. Hopefully I'm getting the hang of that a little bit more. You really have to think about long term when you are going to use those productivity hacks or whatever, because a lot of them aren't healthy in the long term and are gonna cost you a lot, and I'm not talking about money. The fourth thing that I learned was that, I don't know about you, but for me the present seems eternal. What has happened appears to be like a long time ago and it's never gonna happen again, and the future never comes. Essentially, when I'm struck with these moments of depression, of anger, of trauma, it feels like I can't be happy anymore. I'm never gonna be happy anymore. My life is gonna be misery forever. But like, when those moments of depression and anger and trauma, they pass, it feels like they are never going to happen again. And it's obviously not true they are going to happen again, but it feels like, oh, now they are solved, I'm not gonna have any problems again. I came to realize that both good and bad things, they pass, and you are eventually going to come back to like a more neutral state, and that's fine. It actually helps me enjoy the good moments while they last, you know, and not hunger for them to continue or to dread them to come back when I'm enduring the bad moments. So it's more like, I don't know if that's what Buddhists talk about when they talk about detachment. Maybe not, maybe I'm tripping, but it feels more like I'm not hungering or hunting for the things that I don't have. Sort of, I don't know. I'm not chasing happiness and trying to desperately keep a happiness that's gonna go away anyway. I'm just enjoying the good moments and enduring the bad ones and going back to the neutral state as is the roller coaster of life. That's, guess what I learned basically. The fifth thing is doing more work streams, because apparently that helps me work a little bit. And actually I did one a while back. I actually supposed to have done one this week. I didn't because I was recording, which didn't go well, but I'm finishing recording now. I don't know if it's because like it reflects appointments. I don't know what's the psychology behind it, but it helps. Now, things I would do differently, like I said, drawing the stuff, both the character sprites and the backgrounds and the CGs in 4K instead of being full HD. Doing that thing that like I do have the outline for the story, but like write the scene and then I program the scene, I draw the visuals of the scene and the sound effects, and then I'm moving to the next scene instead of like writing the entire story and the programming everything, then the moving of the visuals. I feel like this scene by scene works better, probably. I'm gonna do that next, and apparently everyone that makes visual novels works like that, probably. I watched like one video about making visual novels and then a bunch of tutorials, and now I'm here. Hi. The third thing is to get help from others, actually, because you see, yes, I did everything by myself and I'm glad I was able to, but a custom sound effects and music would be absolutely outstanding for the game, would make things much better. Same goes with the art. Like, I like the art that I did for the backgrounds, the characters I like. If you guys could see what happens in my head, it's 3D and drawing and CGI and live action, everything at the same time, and it works. Of course, my head is superior than reality, who thought? But like, yeah, a professional artist would help me a lot, actually, at least for the sprites. Could take the backgrounds. Like, I rather do it myself and be in than not doing it at all, of course, but professional would be very welcome. Professional text editor for like catching up mistakes, because English is not my first language, so of course gonna have like curious choices of wording and sentence structure and pronouncing things the way they are not supposed to. And also programming for Rampy would be nice. Rampy isn't difficult, but someone else doing it would be actually better for me. Maybe a professional graphic designer or UI UX designer would be great as well. I actually need to make new UI for the game because the current one is but yeah, other people to cover my limitations would be great. My writing isn't professional or anything, but I would actually like to write and get better writing. Other things, I like drawing, but like if I want to make a project, I want a professional now to do the professional part of my professional project, even though they're not professional. It's not a professional project, but anyway, other people to help me would be great in any capacity. The fourth thing that I would make differently, it's not making a 30 days challenge for my first type of project, like making our first visual novel in 30 days, which is not like doable, yes, but good idea, I don't know if it was the best idea. If it works for you, great. I don't know if it was the best idea for me. And there was a fifth thing that I don't remember. So I'm either gonna edit it in or I'm gonna like put in the comments or something. A big point that I want to make here is to kill the myth of the lone artist. You can make things on your own, and being alone shouldn't stop you from making your projects. However, not necessarily even having a team, but being part of a community can already help a lot you making your projects. Not necessarily just artistic projects, although usually, but having other people, other peers to inspire you, to help you, and of course having a team also helps a lot. And sometimes for big projects a team is necessary even to make it happen. Yes, there are examples like Undertale was made almost entirely by Toby Fox, where few things were made by other people, and Stardew Valley was made practically by one person as well, but those are exceptions. Usually, if you actually look at YouTube channels, at video games, at any project that's really big, you're gonna see that most of the time is made by a team of people, even if it's an indie game, and very rarely is a single person. RT Gaming, if I'm not mistaken, has 2 people on, he himself and his editor. I believe that's the only 2 people, and he's the exception. Usually channels of his size have a team of people. The tourist channels have dozens of people working on a channel, probably people researching, writing the script, recording, editing, doing social media marketing, stuff like that, analysis of the market and the YouTube and social media. Very rarely are this kind of things done by a single person, very small group of people. Even in games, if you look at the channels that talk about developing small projects, like making a fighting game that's also a card game, you are going to see very small projects done by one person. But big projects are very rare to see a single person working on it, and usually takes a long time, and the bigger ones are usually back up by several people. So you can do stuff by yourself. Not having other people to help you should not stop you from doing what you want to do. However, don't expect to remake GTA 5 by yourself with a box of scraps. Technically it's possible, but it's not feasible for most people, and not necessarily should be done anyway by yourself. Communities and teams of people actually exist for big projects for a reason, because it actually offloads a lot of work, and you can actually do a lot of work in parallel to each other instead of just doing everything yourself. And like I said before, the skill sets of other people complement your own, and doing stuff with people is actually better. Generally depends. In general, there are people that like It's also good to remember that we are social creatures, and social connections, even if they don't directly assist you, actually helps you a lot. I wouldn't be passionate about stories and science if my parents didn't encourage me, for example. So even if just to have a safety network, or a network of people to like inspire you, or are like-minded people, not people that think exactly the same way as you, of course, but like people that are connected by something, is usually a good thing. Actually, Greg, the J-Reg guy, did several videos about art community and why you should be in the art community if you're an artist. And yeah, the channel, they're called now, I think, We Are Not Alive. They talk about how having friends is basically a superpower and the best thing you can have as a professional. If you don't have an option, be a lone artist, but if you have the option to like be part of a cool community and engage with other people, you should, because that actually has a lot of power on its own. And actually having other people can help you reach a level of actually doing a project professionally. Even if you're not in the professional level yet, you get there by starting making stuff. You already probably started already learning things, which is why this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Not sponsored. Who's gonna sponsor any of my channels? Look at the size of them. Whatever, whenever, whichever. Which one is it? Maybe it was an abandoned project or a previous hobby you had. You learn things from that. Even if it isn't directly connected to it, you can learn and connect any type of subject together if you really understand it. Or even if the subjects aren't related, like people talk about video games teaching them a lot of life lessons, and some of it is a little bit cringe, but there's actually a lot of truth to that, because if you are willing to learn from things, not just things that are teaching you something, but like learn how not to do certain things, you can actually learn a lot from other people, from other places, even if that doesn't really relate to what you're doing right now. If you're playing chess or if you're playing video games, maybe helps you learn how to do finances in some way. I don't know, just an example. With all that said, I'm not here to inspire you. I'm here to bring something to the conversation of making projects that I think has been lost, or well, something that has been lost to like most conversations. A few minutes back I did a critique of the productivity niche and stuff like that, and that's with a good reason. It's very easy to fall into many of the traps that dehumanize us, and especially for the sake of work and profit that might not even go to you specifically or at all, or just keep watching videos that make you feel good and inspired. And feeling inspired, it's good of course, but it's not a video that is gonna fix your problems. Not this video, not the video you're gonna watch after this one. Reality is that change is gradual. Change doesn't come all at once. Even change that comes from like a big event or like a radical change of some kind, typically a lot of the changes that is brought by that is still gradual. It's gonna be happening over time and not all at once. So instead of watching a video, getting inspired, working really hard and fizzling out or burning out yourself, try changing things gradually, incrementally. Oh, look, incrementally, a beautiful word. A little bit every day, even if you don't do it every day or not able to progress linearly every day. Like Keith's video didn't change my life, right? And like I'm now working on my project without procrastinating. Yeah, I fucking wish, but no. But it was an important stepping stone for me to learn how to work on a project for an extended period of time. And I also had things that I learned previously that I use now, like working from a computer, working on other projects, and stuff that I learned how my mind and my behavior works, and how do I make art, how do I write. And there's stuff of course that I learned in this project, the way I drew backgrounds and the sprites. I made it up on the spot based on stuff that I already learned previously. Well, not on the spot, was trial and error, but you know. And of course, the things I learned this time I'm gonna use the next projects and the next time I'm doing something. To counterbalance a little bit of the cynicism that I use here, it's fine to watch inspirational videos on YouTube and be inspired, of course. Inspiration itself isn't bad. Inspiration is actually really good and can drive us to do things and improve things and change things. Emotion and sentiments, it's what drive us at the end of the day, and just because they go away doesn't mean they aren't meaningful. Typically the things that fizz away and are ephemeral are the things that actually are meaningful because they go away. That's what actually gives them meaning. Now, to counterbalance my counterbalance, which I was using to counterbalance the productivity mentality, I don't want to get too inspirational with this video. If you felt inspired, that's great and you should use that, but I want you to know that change is gradual and it's not gonna come right now as you watch this video, and some of it already happened in the past from things you already did. Some of the change is gonna come after, depending on what you do, and some of the change is gonna happen afterwards over time. I'm learning how to live above my demons, or at least with them, and sometimes they are actually helpful. But at the end of the day, I rather be like how Seixas said, I rather be this walking metamorphosis instead of having a set opinion on everything or have a set way of how I work. Yeah, that was the video, and thank you all for watching. If you like this video and want to see more, there is this video appearing right now, probably somewhere on the screen. And yeah, I don't know how to end this. I want to thank everyone that takes stock images, which helps a lot. Everyone that made royalty-free music and sounds. I want to thank Foreign Keeps for making video essays, which are really good. I want to thank my mom and dad for making me. Hi. And I want to thank God for failing to eliminate me several times, and now I am everyone's problem. I'm just kidding. The God isn't real, I am. But no, seriously, thank you everyone for watching, and I see you all in the next one, I guess. Bye.